Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our top producer panel on new construction. We have a great group of panelists. Hi, Niall. A group of panelists who are here who are going to answer your questions and tell you what it is that you need to know about building your business with new construction. So we appreciate them taking time out of their day today for being here. Appreciate it very much. One of the things that we do love about RASM and our members is they're always willing to give back, share their experiences. And so we are grateful for you guys being here today. Thank you. And Meagan, our moderator. She's on our professional development committee. So she had a big part in getting our panelists together. One thing I need to say to you guys is NAR has a new rule for a new education that's required. It's fair housing that we have to take every 3 years in coordination with the Code of Ethics. So by the 2027, everybody has to have 2 hours of fair housing done. And I was on vacation last week, but before I left for vacation, there was over 6,000 of our members who have not done the fair housing. So I really don't want everybody to wait until 2027 last minute when I'm not going to have room in classes for you guys. So we do have a class coming up on June 30th. It's the At Home with Diversity class. Now, not only does this satisfy your fair housing requirement, it also satisfies 7 hours of CE for your state licensing, and it also gets you an NAR certification in diversity. So, so it's a great three for the requirement that you need to do. So, please, we'll have the flyers in the back of the room, and try to just get it done and get it over with. That would be great. So, all right. So we're going to get started. We have a lot to cover. We have a sponsor here today. Snap House is here with Courtney, and we'd love to hear a few words about your business.
Hello, my name is Courtney and I work with Snap House. We do real estate photography. Our packages start as low as $99. Sorry. In today's competitive market, it is imperative to have a real estate photographer on your side. And we're here to help. We would love to join your team. If you go to our website, it's www.snaphouse with no E, 2 S's at the end. If you book our Premium Plus package, we are offering free drone. It's a $400 value for just $299. I think that's about all I have. If you drop your business cards off today, we're going to do a drawing today for a free drone with one of those packages mentioned. Thank you.
Courtney. Well, good afternoon. Thank you all so much for being here. I know we're going to hear from 4 incredible realtors who are running a really amazing business, specializing in new construction. And as our icebreaker, and to dive right in, I'm going to start with Rachel and we'll move down the line, and then we're going to bounce around throughout. But I want to just introduce our panelists. They're going to say a little bit about themselves. So Rachel, we'll start with you.
All right. I think I have to meet it. So Rachel Woodruff, my team is House Match, and I've been doing real estate, oh my goodness, for almost 30 years now. So it's been fun.
She loves it.
Absolutely.
Lisa.
That's all I know to do.
I'm Lisa McBride, and my team is Sarasota Neighborhood Experts, and this is my 30th year in the business. So.
That's what we call a veteran. My name is Matt Leicht. I've been in the business for about 11 years now. I run a small team, but it's just me and 2 other agents, so pretty small. I'm very hands-on with a lot of it, so I hope to kind of relate to whether you're running a team or you're looking at doing all this as an individual. I hope that we can answer kind of questions that gear towards where you're at.
Hey, Niall Phelan. I'm only in my 3rd year, so a lot less experience than these guys. I have a small team called Oasis Group, just 5 of us in the area, and looking forward to sharing some insights today.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited to hear from you. Now,
I'm with Real Broker. You're welcome.
Now, new construction is a completely different beast than resale, and you're really selling a vision and a process that can take 6 to 24 months, and sometimes for these custom homes, even longer than that for the whole process. I want you to take us back to your first major new construction win, and what was the exact moment or specific strategy that made you realize you could turn this niche into a multi-million-dollar pillar of your business? Anyone want to start us off with that? Remember your first new construction win?
Yeah, I think it goes back to probably one of my first new construction deals. Anyone remember Hammock Preserve in Palmer Ranch? Hands up, yes, nodding heads. So I remember, that was when Esplanade was breaking ground, everything like that. And I think my aha moment, that would have been probably 2017 around, about 9 years ago. And I thought, wow, this is easy. You don't write the contract. You don't manage the contract. You don't manage anything. And I thought there's something here. And it was something that I found that I enjoyed kind of naturally. I could walk through a floor plan and then recall how you could rebuild that floor plan or the different changes. And that obviously is super important when you're trying to relate that to a buyer and add value to a buyer. That's the reason why buyers are going to work with you. So I think that was kind of more of my aha moment. And I remember, the sales rep and all of that. And then, since then we're hundreds down the line.
That's amazing. Who else? Yeah, Lisa.
I can honestly say I don't remember my very first new construction, but I think definitely during the pandemic when we had homes flying off the market and so many people wanting to get into homes, that it just became a very natural part of the business. And also, what I think one thing I like about it and what is because you can really research the builder, the floor plans, you can really dive into certain neighborhoods and know a lot about this. And I think by nature, I want to know more and more and more we have thousands of neighborhoods. And with new construction, you can really take the time to understand it and relay that to clients and potential customers and things. So it's been a great pillar for us.
Yeah, Rachel.
So I'll take it back a little more personal. I was just graduating high school and had moved here from California, and I heard about this wonderful community called Lakewood Ranch. So I did not want to rent, and I was one of the first 50 people to buy in Lakewood Ranch. It was, for me, I was nervous about the buying process and having maintenance on a house and taking care of things. And I've heard some, crazy stories. So for me, it was exciting, and I got into a new community. And like I said, it didn't have any maintenance, and I was able to get going in my career and not worry about anything. And from there, I started real estate. And here I am.
That's amazing. I didn't know that about you before. Now, a lot of agents who are thinking about new construction might think that they need to build that business by sitting in a model home. And some builders will allow a resale agent to do that. How have you focused on strategically building a new construction focused business and positioning your personal brand as an asset to those buyers, or even if you've had the opportunity to work with developers?
So I think I got a great piece of advice when I was starting out, which was find someone in each new construction community and adopt them. They are your best ally. And so for about 3 months, when I first got my license, I spent most of my time driving from community to community, meeting sales agents, finding out who I connected with, and then trying to absorb as much information as possible. I think initially I found the builders that I connected with, so trying to get under the skin of what's the pluses and minuses of this builder. Okay, so every builder has some things that they like to stand out on and do really well. But with that, there may come a sacrifice, because at the end of the day, it's a P&L. They have to balance out a price. Okay. So I think my biggest piece was adopting someone in each community, just absorbing information from them, not wanting to be the most knowledgeable person in the room is a great thing to adopt at that point, because I can promise you, your sales agent that you have adopted and become friends with has infinitely more knowledge of that community than you. So initially, I was very quiet when I would bring clients in, and I would tell them up front, we're going to listen. We're going to, this person has more knowledge than me. They work for the builder, and then we can talk afterwards about concerns, things like that. Over time, as I got to know those communities, I was able to add more value, or, not to suggest people would say, it's an Irish saying, sorry, say more than their prayers. But there are certain sales agents who will stretch the truth a little bit in front of your client. So I would quite often jump in and correct it in a very diplomatic way to make sure my client knew this is actually the real scenario. Okay. They don't just have one seat left on the airplane. It's just one seat left at that price, and it's still negotiable. The deal might be ending tomorrow, but they still need to sell houses the day after that. They're still not going to negotiate. So I think for me, it was really understanding, how does each builder work? How do you build that relationship? And then how do you grow your knowledge by just going back time and time again? And I think certain sales agents were probably fed up looking at me after about 3 months. But it meant that I really understood what each of those communities offered. So when a lead then came to me and said, hey, I want something with more mature landscaping, but I don't want an old house, but I want this. And you get that nice impossible list. I was actually able to go, hey, where has that with no CDD? Canoe Creek, and great people up there. Let's go talk to them. Great builder. We can get an inventory home. We can meet everything you need, and you're 8 minutes from Lakewood Ranch, but you're not paying the fees. So that was sort of my journey.
So good. And I'm thrilled to hear you talk about building that one-on-one and personal relationship with salespeople in the new construction communities, because when you have the right relationship in place, they're going to make you look like a rock star. They're going to sing your praises and make sure that your customer knows, yeah, you're with a rock star and they're taking great care of you. And they specifically reached out to me to educate you about this community.
I'll add one thing to that. And there's someone in this room who's done this for me. But building such good relationships with those agents, I actually got business out of it. I had people would go into the community and be like, but I've got to sell my home first. And then I would get a call from the sales agent, go, hey, Niall, could you look after that? So I actually ended up getting business out of those relationships. And that made me more loyal to that person. And that just became cyclical. So there's more than just selling a new home if you do it the right way.
Exponential return. That's amazing. Anybody else want to share how you've positioned your personal brand to showcase that you can do new construction or attract those new construction buyers, even though you are doing both resale and new construction?
Go for it.
We do a lot of social media marketing, and it's very, very easy to talk about new construction. It's a pretty product. It's easy to get out there, and the sales reps are fantastic. And I agree with everything Niall said about really finding good sales reps and introducing yourself and working with them. It is a partnership to build, but I attract buyers because I talk about new construction all the time. And there's a lot of different ways to talk about new construction, a lot of different platforms to do that on. It doesn't have to be just one platform. And so I think the more you know about new construction or about a neighborhood or builder, or even having your favorite sales reps in certain places, just helps make all of our clients more comfortable with us and believe that we're the experts in what we're talking about.
And Lisa, would you say that you're focusing on the lifestyle of certain communities, or talk a little bit more about what you're focused on?
Yes, I talk a lot about lifestyle because the first question I ask any buyer is, tell me what you want your lifestyle to look like, because it's not always the builder. Actually, I just had a meeting this morning and the gentleman we were talking about the different lifestyles, and I said, fall in love with the community and the neighborhood, and then we'll find your home. Because a lot of people start with trying to find the perfect home, but I think you have to find the perfect location, the perfect community, the best amenities or no amenities. You really need to find out what they want their day-to-day life to look like, because I think when we find that and when we know that, our clients trust us a lot more.
Now, how do you stay up to date on the new construction offerings? Because things are constantly changing in that world. And do you have any like insider information that you are privy to through relationships or other tactics?
Got that. Yes, I think I'll take back to kind of what you said. I mean, the biggest thing is your relationship with the builder. Remember, they need us out there, you know, speaking on their behalf of their communities and staying when you do have that one, I say liaison, and you're in for each builder, each community, they and they're willing to have that relationship with you. You find that one person, then they're there giving you those incentives. They know the customer that you usually bring to them, what's your specialty, you know, whether it's incentives or interest rates or just, you know, extras, free pools. We love those. You know, there's just so much that you just, I don't know, you lean on that relationship, I think, with the builder.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, going back to the brand thing. Well, first of all, in here, by show of hands, how many of you have done a new construction deal this year? Okay. How many have never done a new construction deal? And you're like, I want to. All right. I like it. Just helps us understand a little bit of where people are at. So I think in terms of building a brand, you've got to think new construction is buyers, right? We're not doing listings. This is why we're here. We're learning about how to work with buyers and build a brand. So you've got to decide, where do you want to build your brand? Is it through an email campaign? Is it through doing open houses that buyers are coming to, and now you're getting an email list and you're getting a call list? Is it through YouTube videos? Is it through TikTok? Is it through Facebook? If you're building a brand, you got to figure out, where do you want to build that brand? For me, I've built it on YouTube. I don't have Instagram. I don't have TikTok. You're like, wow, I don't have it on my phone. I don't have an account because I focus on one thing. And that's what has allowed us to build that brand over time, over the years. And, you know, this year I was looking at the numbers before we came because I wasn't sure if you were going to ask. I never know what the numbers are. But this year we've closed, and now it's a little bit more balanced between resale and new construction. But I think we've closed 24 million year to date, and we've got 20 million pending for this year. And all of that is just because of the brand we decided to build, and the brand doesn't cost you anything, right? If you build the brand, it's because people want to work with you or your team or what you're putting out there. And then your other question, in how do you stay organized with the incentives and things? I mean, there's what, like 70 different new construction communities from Parish to Welland Park, like more than that. So for me, I can't. It's too overwhelming. But it comes back to what Lisa was saying with the lifestyle piece, is when you're on a buyer consultation phone call, you know, my first question I asked them is, you know, what's your connection to Sarasota? Because I want to know, are they asking me to be a tour guide Barbie, or do they actually know what they want? And then that helps me narrow down to which locations are best. And I'm not going to know what incentive Neil is offering in Grand Park versus what MI Homes is offering in Grand Park, but I'm going to know where to go to find it. And that's the biggest thing, is take the burden off of yourself to know everything, every little detail, because you're not. But having the confidence to tell them about the area, to tell them about the lifestyle, that is the piece that every single buyer is trying to figure out. The deal and figuring out the incentives, after you hang up the phone call, you can go find that information. So to kind of take that off, and then, you know, in terms of like sales reps, I have like a spreadsheet of our preferred sales reps that we work with. And so then I automatically know, okay, we're talking about Palmyra, David Weekly, cool. We're going to text Kelly, and Kelly's going to give me the information. So I know where to go and get it. I just don't have to know it all, you know, top of mind.
Absolutely. What a great point. And I see in the room, we've got Christine Bauman with Lakewood Ranch. And I specifically mention her because some of the communities have these great information centers that can be leveraged, where you can register your clients and learn about the new communities that are coming out of the ground and see, you know, what is available and around, and general price points when you're just getting started.
I want to add one thing in terms of staying up to date. Matt's right, impossible. We're in a very unique area of the country. The amount of new construction that we have in this area, that's not normal. When I talk to realtors around the country, they're like, "You're doing how much new construction?" So I don't know if anyone's tech savvy in the room, but I built a scraper every single day. Every night at 2 a.m. It goes online and it searches for all new news of any new construction or permits that have been released for a new community or updates for incentives. And it drops me back an email in the morning that says, hey, incentive updates from Pulte that were published. Now, I'm going to caveat that in a second. Incentive updates from Pulte that were published, incentive updates from Neil that have just gone on their website, just announced a new community in south side of Sarasota. This is what it's called. So I have all that that hits my inbox. And so I'm able to keep on top of what's going on in new construction. Happy to share that email with anyone in the room. So no issues. It's built, it's there, it doesn't cost me anything. Big caveat. Builders' websites are terrible. They have, on average, 15 to 20% of the actual inventory available.
You think they'd figure that out?
No, I think there's a trick. There's something in there we don't know about. There's a business decision in that. But that's, again, where knowing your sales agent is your Bible. And as Matt said, just because it's not on the website, the amount of times I've shot a text over to someone and then I've got like 5 house matches for a client and there was nothing on the website, right? So the scraper is great for sort of keeping up to date with some incentives and new communities. Lakewood Ranch, absolutely get on that email list because they will send you everything that's going on. So that sort of gives you a lot inside Lakewood Ranch. But just keep once a week, just shoot a text over to that agent. Hey, what's going on this week? Any incentives? I always start with, how are sales going this month? Because if they've hit their number by the 15th of the month, you're not getting a great deal for your client for the remainder of the month. But if they're like, geez, we're really struggling, you're like, okay, 10 clients, phone call. Hey, I think we can get a deal here. Let's go have a conversation. And with that, never accept. Doris is up in the corner. She just keeps smiling because she's been through all of this with me. She was my go-to person in Neil in Canoe Creek for a few years. Never, ever take the list price that's given to you on anything that has a permit with a builder, right? The closer that is to getting finished, the deeper the discount, the bigger incentives you're going to get for your client. And always, I know we don't like talking about this, but we are in this business to make money. Ask for a bonus, right? 50% of the time when I ask for a bonus, I get a bonus. My average commission on new construction is over 4%. All right. So ask for a bonus. No. No. No, not at all. Look, it's different. I mean, I asked for them on resale as well, honestly. So, but on new construction, like you're going in, you ask the question. Some builders are very strict. Some have flexibility, but their rules change on a weekly basis. Because if you're a publicly traded company and you're 50% behind your sales target for the month, guess what? That's why you get an email from Lennar going, hey, we're offering 5% for the next 2 weeks, or we'll give you 6% if you can get someone to close by the end of June. I got one of those yesterday. If you got a cash buyer who can close by the end of June, I'll give you 6%. Like 6%, guys. So ask for the bonus, but don't be difficult about it because your sales agent's not making the decision on the bonus. But a good sales agent that you've built a good relationship will go to bat for you.
Now I'm going to go off script and I'll come to your question, because you're all good realtors out there and you're getting that BBA, the buyer broker agreement, signed and negotiating your compensation before you're looking at any properties together. Would you be willing to share, any of you, how are you structuring that so that you can still earn your bonus? Is it a modification after the fact, or do you start higher and you can always reduce?
Both, I would say. Like I always start with a standard percentage, and then I'll adjust it. And remember, if it's not on the MLS, if you're dealing with lots and new construction, you don't necessarily need your showing agreement for that.
And asterisk, it's his standard, not an industry standard.
I always have BBAs and showing agreements, by the way. I'm just saying you don't necessarily, but I go back to the client and go, hey, you know, we do so much business with this builder, they're giving us a bonus.
Yeah.
Well, if you got them an amazing deal, they don't care.
They don't.
Yeah.
That's super. Rachel?
So definitely you're doing hopefully everyone's doing a great buyer consultation. So you are filling out getting all the questions answered on lifestyle and what your customer's looking for. Then you're that expert and you can take them right to it. Depending on, at that point, I have a pretty good idea on where we're going to be going and what we're going to be looking at. I will do my buyer broker agreement at a higher percent if it's new construction. I, in my opinion, can modify down easy. It's sometimes harder to go the other way.
Excellent. Anybody else have any commentary on that or strategy you'd like to share? Okay, cool. But I'm glad that came up. That's super awesome because the purpose of business is profit, and your profit is so you can go out there and live a really cool life and do the things you're dreaming about. Did we have you had a question first? Yeah.
I work with builders specifically, and every one of them have been base price, commission based on base price only.
So the question is, just to repeat it for the recording, that the builders she has worked with are paying on the base price only. And so she had a question about that. What's your experience?
I think there's one or two builders who won't move from that if they're hitting their numbers. And that's the big thing, if they're hitting their numbers.
Base price.
Yeah, I mean, I've only had two. Last year the team did about 110 deals. I did about 50 of those, okay? About 30 of those were probably new construction. And I think I only got base price commission on one of those. Yeah. And the average commission was over 4% on new construction. So I think you've got to probe your questions even before you bring the buyer in. Like, if you think about it like a business, they're running a business. They have numbers to hit. And it may not, there's levels of those numbers, right? There's corporate, there's regional, and then there's the sales agent, right? So if the sales agent is getting their ass kicked by their colleague, they're going to go to bat to get a deal done for you because they need the deal. If the regional guys are not performing, but corporate's performing, the regional guys are more likely to do a deal. If corporate's not performing, you're going to get bigger passes at the corporate level. So no matter what's going on, if you ask the right questions, you can figure out where the pressure points are. And I make it my business to get to know all the area managers as much as I possibly can. So if I need to make a quick phone call to find out what's going on, I'll pick up the phone. And I'm always nice. I've only ever had one argument with a sales agent, and I'm always super nice to them. They have a job to do. We have a job to do. They're our partners. They're here to make money for them and help you make money. So if you're nice and you bring candy, they're gonna look after you. We usually bring whiskey, not candy. But yeah.
Awesome, Julia.
Do you give an example? Like your call. Find out if everybody's meeting their numbers, right?
Right. So the question is, and I'm just repeating the questions for our recording so they can hear. The question is there a conversation template framework that you're having in order to find out if they're performing, and how honest and candid are they about that, so that you know what your negotiation tactics could be?
I'm sure the guys have a view on that as well, but mine is built on relationship. Like, you've got to a point in the relationship where the first 5 minutes of the conversation are chit chat. And in that, it's like, hey, how's the month gone? How are things? How are you finding business at the moment? As in, it might be a bit tight for me. So it's the tone that you put across. You invite people to open up. People want to talk naturally. There's definitely guarded sales reps and stuff out there. They're not the people I'm going to connect with. I want the people who are going to share with me what's going on and build those relationships. And I've changed sales reps when I'm not sales agents, when I find that the relationship is not a good connection. But open-ended questions. How are things going this month? Are you finding it a little bit quiet with the heat, or like, hey, now that all the snowbirds are gone, how's business? Like, just throw questions out there. And 9 times out of 10, they're just going to tell you what's going on, what's happening internally, where they're at. I never want to embarrass a sales agent. I always want to make them look like superstars. If we can do that, whenever I talk to a manager, I'm like, that person's awesome. And that helps build the relationship as well. Sorry.
It's so good. And please stay afterwards. We do have a networking and happy hour, a little wine and cheese, so you can ask our esteemed panelists deeper questions there too. So if we're not totally touching on all the questions, please know you've got that additional time to engage with them. So while we're talking about this, you know, the interest rates are fluctuating and we keep thinking that things are going to change there.
I want to add something to that. So
No,
like
that's great.
a question that I just ask, you know, to the sales reps. And again, like I've had a relationship, or there was one recently I was working with, I had never worked with her before. And I just asked her point blank, I said, where are your numbers at? We're towards the end of the month. Have you guys hit your numbers? Are we having a hard time selling things? And at the end of the day, the sales rep's getting paid the same amount of money. So you getting a better deal or more commission doesn't change anything. So how typically corporate does, and I've had to explain this to buyers, right? So buyers will call you sometimes and they'll be like, hey, if I don't use you, I get a better deal, right? I'm like, well, this is not a for sale by owner. This is a corporate builder. So, because I've listed homes with the builder. So I've understood behind the curtain a little bit of how they do. And typically, from my understanding, is a builder knows how many sales they're going to do that year. Let's say they're projecting 100 sales that year. They know based off of decades of data, about 50% of buyers are going to come in and have a realtor and 50% are not going to have a realtor. So what they do is they budget paying, let's say 3% of the purchase price to every home that they sell. Well, so 50 homes, that 3% is going to the realtor. Well, what happens with the other 3%? That goes towards their marketing fund. And so their marketing department works on their quarterly numbers of we're getting 3% of every home sale that we're selling. And that's how they know what they're budgeting. So they're spending the money no matter what, whether it's going to a realtor or going to their marketing fund, either way. So it doesn't get a buyer a better deal, you know, per se. And I try to explain that to buyers because sometimes they can be a little bit weary of like, why do I actually need you to do this? Can't I just walk in? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. And so it's another tidbit of adding more kind of value. But yeah, I just upfront just ask him like, where are your numbers at? Do you? And then the other thing is, hey, you know, Taylor Morrison's offering a $10,000 bonus. Will you guys match that? Because sometimes the corporate builders, they don't always talk. They might talk quarterly, but sometimes they don't know what the other builders doing in the communities. And because of, you know, my team, we probably have a deal with every builder at any given time. And so I can just say, well, you know, Neal Communities gave us these incentives. We want you to beat them. Hey, they gave us this in a commission, or they're doing this as a bonus. We would like you to honor that as well. And so then when they submit that to their regional manager, what is he going to do? He's going to say no? When their numbers are down, he's not going to say no. He's going to say yes.
I love it. So good.
I'm going to add on to a little bit of what Matt said, because we're talking about builders, but also I found it really depends on the subdivision.
Yeah.
Because Pulte, I'm just going to use Pulte as an example. They may have one subdivision that is selling incredibly well, and they're not giving you much over what they are talking about. Another neighborhood 20 miles down the road with Pulte might not be selling well, and you can ask for everything. So don't think it's just builder by builder or time of year. It is neighborhood by neighborhood. And if you have somebody interested in specific neighborhoods, that's when you really, really want to know that, because I find it's different in every single neighborhood.
So good. Now, with fluctuating interest rates and just the things going on in our world and the economy, what are the smart builders doing to move inventory right now? And what are you seeing? Like, how are you finding like more success with them? Any of you can answer.
I'm going to take it again back to that buyer consultation. For me, it's all about the client. So everyone has, their needs, their budget, their lifestyle they're looking for. And, you know, it's taking them, it is literally taking them back to that, being an expert and knowing what the different options are for my clients and taking them to the right spot that's going to help them get the deal that's going to help make this whole little project perfect for them. And I think that's, and builders know that. So, you know, there's specific neighborhoods and builders that are offering certain things, you know, for each buyer that makes it successful. And then you can get them what they need.
And are you seeing things like rate buy downs, closing cost credits, just discounts off the purchase price?
All of it. And you can ask for all of it. And I always say at this point in the business, we can negotiate on everything, and every builder is going to negotiate different. And again, as an example, Neil, you might be able to negotiate on base price a little bit. You might be able to get something off of the lot. You might get a free pool. You might get closing costs. You might get the rate buy down. I'm going to ask for it all. And they can say no, but the more I ask for, the more I'm going to get. So they don't care that you're asking. Like, they're not offended. This is corporate business. This is not a home seller that is so passionate about their home. It is a corporate business. And I think when you look at it a little different than resale, it's a lot easier. It's not personal.
I think Lisa nailed it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
We have another question?
My last new construction was Neil. But have things changed as far as?
So we're asking about what the commissions are looking like, broad brushstrokes out there across the builders. What are you seeing?
I think that very much depends on whether your client is going to pick a lot and build or take an inventory home. Inventory home being anything with a permit or when they've scraped the lot. As soon as they've started scraping the lot, the money's in, because it looks like they've not much money in, but remember, they've probably ordered everything for that house at that point, okay? There may be a few little bits they haven't, but the money's committed. So generally, there's exceptions to this, but generally you're going to earn more money on a spec or inventory home than you will on a build. And generally your buyer is going to get an amazing deal on anything that's a spec or inventory versus a build. They're going to overpay for a build, in my opinion. I know Matt does ton of builds and he's got a pipeline, and I have a pipeline of people who are building and they're going to close, and that's great for you to manage cash flow because I've got a check coming in October, November, February, whatever it is. But I do say to my buyers when they want to build, pick a lot and build, you just need to understand you're leaving 50 or 75 or $100,000 on the table. They're meaningful numbers. So commissions, typically 3.5%, depending on the builder. There's loyalty programs out there like D.R. Horton, you can run 4% for the year if you get 5 deals with them and above. And yeah, they've all got loyalty programs, but again, it depends on the community. I mean, they as the guy said, like, it's community.
They're paying now.
Yeah. Yeah. Their contract still says 1% base and the rest of it's bonus, but these are corporate. Like, if we flip back to a seller's market, those commissions are going to drop, but we're not there yet. So make hay while the sun shines, get your deals done now, build your relationships. Because even when they do flip, when Lennar went to 1%, we were still getting 2 and 3% from them, building off relationships. And that was, my business partner had really invested heavily with them. So, I think the biggest message I think everyone is saying is, like, obviously client comes first. What's their lifestyle? What do they want? Find that match. But just keep asking the builder. Get your list of everything that's involved in the purchase and ask for a discount off everything for the client and go from there. And then what are they going to do? Say no? They're not going to throw you out. I have had a situation once where the manager's manager called me and asked me what I was smoking. Yeah. And I take that as a compliment. So.
The other thing I want to say, with negotiating, there was a builder, and the market was going down. And my client, they're building this house, right? I can't remember if they were building it, if it was an inventory, but they needed to sell their house in Georgia. Well, their market had dropped in Georgia. So they were going to be paying cash with that money. And the builder, they now had more inventory. So the buyers called me and they're like, I don't know what to do. And so a lot of times what I say, whether it's new construction or resale, is just buy time and create leverage. You can do those two things in a transaction, you're going to win. There's tons of pitfalls in the FAR bar and the as-is contract, tons of pitfalls where you can buy time and you can create leverage. In new construction, when we went under contract with this builder, they were having a difficult time to hit their numbers. So we put in a home to sell contingency. Their home wasn't even on the market. So I already knew I had future leverage. Now they were going to go put their home on the market and they're like, Matt, we got to take less. What do we do? So that's great. I called the builder and they're like, yeah, we're not going to change the price. So the manager calls me and I'm like, listen, you have 13 inventory homes. We can just cancel this contract because you gave us a home to sell contingency. You're going to put yours back on the market at a lower price, and then we can go back and go under contract again. I said, so what we want is we want you to drop the price $100,000 because they're going to drop their price $100,000 so they can sell and everybody wins. And all of a sudden, when you kind of explain the situation or how this is a win for corporate, they're like, yeah, we don't want another 14th inventory home right now. We want to keep this under contract. And so now everybody wins and your buyer thinks you're the hero. You're just kind of bringing common sense to the situation and explaining it. But again, I think the thing I respect most about Niall is he is very politely aggressive. 4.5% commissions. You're gonna coach me. But again, if you don't ask, you don't get.
And I would say too on negotiations, sometimes the builders have a number, I believe, that they're trying to stay with on the sales price, right? Because they do care about where those appraisals are coming in and things like that. But don't, just because they hold on that price, like Lisa said, go in for an extra buy down, lower interest rate, your closing costs, get all the blinds, the appliances. I mean, there's so much more to ask for than even just the price if they do hold at some level.
Can I add one quick thing, because that's really good. The one thing I would say is be the advocate for your client long after the contract is signed. If you're in a build and then they go to the design center, your job is to protect your client through that process. There are some builders who will say you're not allowed into the design center. And before the contract is signed, I say, unless you let me into the design center, we're going somewhere else. Because there are builders who absolutely rip people off in the design center. They get them in, it's like clickbait. And then in the design center, guess what? They've spent 250 grand for 100 grand worth of real stuff, right? So who does the client blame when they overpay for a house? So sit there in the design center and have a conversation with them beforehand and go, look, I know a builder, and this is real life. I know a builder who charges $10,000 for a $2,500 refrigerator, okay, in the design center, and they make you buy a refrigerator. And that's something that I raise with my client beforehand. Like, let's prep for the design center. We've got a great deal for you. Yes, we got you 70 grand worth of free upgrades if in the design center. But with this builder, that just brings you to parity, right? Be the advocate for them all the way through the process. If the construction manager is being difficult for them, be the advocate. Get in the middle. Don't be afraid to have a difficult conversation, because the loyalty that will bring you from both the client and the sales agent, who's usually the one taking it on the chin. If you get in and you mediate, you're just winning with everyone across the board. So yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, we're here to learn from these professionals. You know, buyers can face months of choices, to your point, like starting with the design center and even before that. Occasionally, there are supply chain issues or delays in their build, or things come up that were not expected. So how do you manage expectations, add value, and nurture that relationship during the long gap between they're really excited, they're building a house or buying a new construction house, to you're actually moving into it and you own it?
I'll piggyback a little bit on what he just said. It's just staying in the process. So we've built a system around the new construction as well. And you want to stay in touch with your client each step of the way. You're there to walk them through the process, set those expectations. Sometimes the building process is going fast. Sometimes it slows down. When they get to the end, it really slows down when they're doing the fine tuning. So it's setting those expectations and those buyer consults that you're doing, really giving them, and then staying in contact. I mean, we're talking every couple of weeks and giving them our own updates, our pictures if they're not local. It's creating that, keeping that excitement going, and like he said, being there. And when there are problems on the job site, guess who's there? They love us there. Not really.
Yeah, so good.
Oh, he has a quote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You go to something like fire walkthrough?
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah.
You know, for the buyer walkthrough is probably the place where you're going to cement your relationship more with that client than anything else. As you do more and more new construction and get to know the builders, you have knowledge walking in that door that the buyer doesn't have. The first thing I do on a walkthrough is I get there 10, 15 minutes early. I get the construction manager, I put my arm around them and I'm like, you know what today's mission is? And they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm a little bit crazy. And I say, mission today is to get you a 5-star review from my client. So we're going to fix everything that needs to be fixed. And they just go, absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. And then you're straight away, you're in the right place. And there are certain builders when you walk in the door that on that walkthrough, you're going to feel like you need a pair of boxing gloves on. All right. And there are builders who will fix everything. Right. And I'm not going to name names in this room, but most of these guys.
Being recorded.
Yeah. Exactly.
Pay for the wine and
So
cheese.
I can't afford to be silly. But that walkthrough, like with your client, when you spot all the different things, because you know this builder always messes up this little thing or this thing, like the value that you're adding to them in that moment, it's rare. How many industries and how many moments do you get to have an hour and a half, 2 hours with a client? Just adding value for them, right? So I know lots of agents skip it. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, and an example that I'm having right now, I have a customer. She is definitely a little tough. I love her to death. I've worked with her multiple times, but we're building a new house right now. And I will tell you, if her walkthrough is not as good as we need it to be, we're going to have some problems. The builder is. So I've done 2, 3 walkthroughs prior to her arrival next week, because I want to make sure that I'm working through that process so that when she does arrive, it looks nice. So.
Excellent. We'll go here first.
An incident where on closing day, they're willing to spend. They only had one walkthrough and it was 2 days before closing. And when I came over for the closing, they were still putting up filibuster. And we were closing in an hour. How would you handle that?
How would you handle the situation that all the work isn't finished? The home's still getting some final touches before closing.
I'm sure we probably all have a little bit different idea here. First of all, you have to understand those builder contracts are written a lot of times that say it may not actually have every single thing done. Okay. It has to be habitable. You have to have your utilities. You have to have everything. But they will tell you, like on a screen, for instance, they may say, like, the screen company is out there. It's not relevant to the livability of the home. So they'll get it done. Okay. And again, it's a little sometimes builder by builder. Is this something that happens all the time? This builder never gets it done. There's always going to be different scenarios, in my opinion. First of all, these are new construction, but they're not perfect homes. So we were talking about setting expectations. You guys, we talk about new construction all the time. This is not, we are architects drawing this out. This isn't like the perfect, I always say, this is not going to be a perfect home. So we need to know that first and foremost. There will be things that are wrong, but the builders a lot of times won't delay closing. I mean, if something is majorly wrong, we're not closing. But a screen, I'd probably still close.
They also push back the closing date 3 weeks early. Like, it was closed, March 1st, so they put it back to February.
Yes, they have the right to change the closing date because there's no closing date on the contracts, right? It's per the builder. However, again, we're advocating for our clients. I always say if that date doesn't work for you, we'll figure it out. We're going to figure out how to get a couple more days. I mean, the builder wants to close as soon as the builder's done, right? Yeah. Have you reached out to? Okay.
I ask for an exception letter when things aren't finished.
Yeah.
That most builders will give it to you. I've had pushback a couple of times. And the construction, you got to remember, like everyone has a job. So the construction manager, generally to get their bonus, they need a 5-star review. Okay. And the closing team get bonused on doing things on time because everything that generates cash for a builder is pretty much bonused across their team. But if a builder said to me the walkthrough is 2 days before closing, I'd be in that home 10 days before closing, and I'd be asking my sales agent, who's the construction manager? I need to meet them on site. My clients are out of state or they're on the East Coast. I'm going to walk it through. I want to know everything that needs to be done for my client. And I'm going to walk through and I'm going to do an informal list and I'm going to be very clear. Like, I want to get you a 5-star review, but we need all these things finished. And I need your commitment now that if it's not done by closing day, because you're moving up the closing, because you want to hit your numbers, that's the only reason they're doing it, then I want an exception letter. The construction manager hates issuing an exception letter. In most builders, they get deducted bonus for it. It's amazing how many things get completed when you ask for one.
Oh, it's amazing what can be done in 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great, sage advice. In the back, please.
But I found a full-time order. And so this is definitely blowing my mind, the difference. This is actually new construction, it's very different here. Our inspections with new construction, pre-closing inspections, like what you do, the already existing home, are those common here?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I suggest they do them
Two.
all the time.
Yeah. And actually we do 2.
Yeah,
We do the pre-drywall and then we do an inspection usually about 2 weeks prior to closing. And then the builder rep, they get that inspection and then we do the walkthrough. So inspections are absolutely part of new construction. Yeah.
And builder dependent as well.
Yes.
I will tell my clients, like, if it's Neil, I'll name them. Like, if it's Neil, I'm not as worried because their reputation for fixing things, even out of warranty, if it's the original homeowner, not if it's a new homeowner, is excellent. And you get an almost cosmetic warranty. So if they're under pressure, I'll be like, you know what? If you can't get them in, that's fine. Or we're in a spec home, we've missed the pre-drywall. You know what? Get your inspector in month 10.
I say that all the time. Like I always say, I'm not trying to make you spend all this money, but I almost every one of my clients, month 11, we have another inspector out there.
Yeah.
So good. And we had a question up here.
High-end builder, I took a price home and we had an exceptional, you guys would know the inspector coming out. And the roof, there were tiles that were slipped, which is typical. But 2 months in, the ceiling collapsed in the front bedroom. And she didn't really want to pursue because she knew the family the inspector, they go to private school together, and she didn't want to get involved, and the builder did come and repaired the roof, but still, just so upsetting to me, to her. How do you handle this new construction when situations like this, and they are often, they have that mold, as we know.
Your inspector is generally only, sorry, your inspector is generally only liable for double the cost of the inspection. That's their insurance, just so you know. Okay. Now that's not there's exceptions to everything we talk about, but I learned that the hard way. I had an inspector who said all the pool equipment was working. Pool equipment, sorry. The combination of my accent and me covering my mouth, it doesn't help. The pool equipment was all marked down as correct, working, didn't do anything. This wasn't new construction, but turned out that the gas pool heater was completely busted. As soon as they moved in and turned it on, there was black smoke everywhere, and it pretty much exploded on the side of the house. And we went back to the inspector, and the inspection was $700, and they paid out $1,400, and my client was 10 grand out of pocket. And so I just had a straight conversation with the owner of the company. Like, we give you 3 to 4 inspections a week. You choose. You're going to pay for it, or I got a new inspector from next week. And that was it. Use your leverage. Pick inspectors that good teams work with as well. But remember, an inspector spotting a roof, and I think an home inspection course is about 2 weeks, right? So, like, an inspector knowing or spotting something, I built a lot of homes, and I sort of specialized in reconstruction of very old buildings, long before I'd been a licensed real estate agent. It is very, very difficult to spot certain things. So a roof collapsing because a joist wasn't, in the right place, or didn't have the right fixings or strappings or something like that, is very, very difficult in a 2 to 3 hour inspection. But the beautiful thing about new construction is that's a warranty issue. And your structural warranty, if that fell under structural, is mostly 10 years. But your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing can be between 2 and 3. Knowing your warranties is important. And I will, depending on the price point, I will steer people to communities where I know they've got an outstanding warranty and they deal with the warranty efficiently. There are builders out there who make a living out of frustrating the warranty process. And I know people who've had to replace air conditioners because they're waiting 3-4 weeks to get a reply from the warranty department. And in the meantime, their AC is busted. All right.
That inspector wasn't a contractor inspector, right? That was just a general inspector. So wouldn't a roofer, a licensed roofer or a licensed pool person, wouldn't they be more liable for something that?
I think that depends on their insurance. I had a home up in Lakewood Ranch where there was an obvious dip in the roof before it was finished. And this is a high production entry price builder. And the home inspector didn't spot it. I don't normally send the roofer in for new construction. I've never done it, except in this case when I pulled up. Same situation where they wanted to do the walkthrough 3 days before closing. I was like, no, I'll get up, I'll meet the construction manager. And I pulled up, and I got lucky because whatever way the sun was sort of hitting the roof, I could see there was a dip in the roof. And I'd been there like 5 times and never spotted it. And then got into an argument with the construction manager, who told me it was best phrase you're ever going to hear in a walkthrough. It's within tolerance. Yeah. So my answer is, great. Can you show me the documents? So the roof was dipping, and in that case, I brought in a roof engineer, and I paid for it for my client. I brought in someone, I got them to get up there, and we found out that 4 of the trusses were in place and they were incorrect. To be fair to the builder, as soon as we showed them the evidence, they paid me back for the roof inspector. and they replace one entire side of the roof before closing. So yeah, but that's
advocating.
That's what I was about to say. Remember, we're the advocate.
that's why you earn money. Yeah.
Over here. And I'm going to repeat this just so everyone can hear. So Matt specifically mentioned YouTube as a major pillar of his business and how he's attracting new construction clients. And so the question is asking the panelists if they would share what their major pillar or pillars are for attracting that new construction business.
I lean towards the buyers. So the buyer consult, I'm going to know what they're looking for, what lifestyle, the new construction, and then you're going to position yourself as that expert. And I think that's a big thing, whether you're doing social media or you're during your buyer consult or you're lead genning in any sort. It's being that expert and knowing how all the stuff that, everybody's mentioned that they've done for their clients. I mean, that is what a customer is paying for, by having you there, or not even really paying for, but that's what you're, and I think it's just making sure that you portray that out to whatever marketing you choose to do. It could be the open houses, anything. You just have to be that expert. Mm-hmm.
From TikTok, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. So I missed the boat when it first came out. On my Facebook, that on my, what I do. YouTube will get into it. Got myself into it.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. You're great at that.
Okay. So actually, I know there's a question on that she has regarding this, and I've really thought about the answer because she asked us a question. First of all, I use YouTube as well. However, I also have used, not as diligently currently, but I have used TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I've used all socials, and I'm still on all socials. It's a lot of work to be on social of any kind. But they asked us a question if we had to start over in new construction for the first 30 days, what would we do? And I really thought about that question more than any of the other questions because, first of all, nothing in real estate happens quickly. Marketing takes time. But also, things have changed so much, not just with social, but with AI. And I think now we have to be discoverable. Used to be discoverable on Google or YouTube, but now we need to make sure our platforms are also discoverable by AI. So and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, but I think if I had to start over from scratch, just kind of figure out something, I would do a WordPress website because it is very searchable on AI. I would blog with video every single day about one community or two communities or one builder and inundate it so much so that when somebody Googles or puts in chat or Gemini or Claude, something about XYZ neighborhood, all of your stuff is showing up. We have to be marketers. First and foremost, that's the only way we're going to get business. And no matter what platform you're going to do, it's going to take months for it to get to the top of the algorithms. So it is a process that takes time, knowing as much as possible, but you have to inundate it. When I started on YouTube, for instance, and I tell people this, I took a class, they said you have to have this many videos and it's going to take this much time. And I'm like, I don't have that much time. So I posted and posted and posted and posted. And like clockwork, after 90 days, my phone was ringing and it's never stopped. But I worked 85 hours a week to do that. So it took, I was like, I'm not sitting around. I'm doing it. But I had moved here, started over. And so real estate is what I knew, but I didn't know Sarasota. So, but AI is really, really critical today because people aren't Googling at all. They're going to AI, and we have to be searchable with AI.
I want to.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on what you said, kind of going into that question. If I had no database and I was starting from scratch today, what would I do? When I've coached agents, the first question I ask them is, what do you like to sell? And I've never sold anything. What are you interested in? Do you like siesta key condos? Like you're just a beach bum. Do you like downtown high rises? Do you like Palmer Ranch? Do you like Lakewood? Where do you live? If you live in Welland Park, do you want to drive to Parrish? Don't start writing content about Parrish then. Like people ask me like, Matt, why don't you do stuff here? Because I don't want to drive there at the end of the day. So I would figure out where do you want to sell and what type of property do you want to sell? Because I tell you right now, I've done like 2 siesta key deals in my life. Why? I don't do any content on siesta key. That's its own niche. You can't be an expert in everything. And so I would say, what is it that you think you want to sell? And then 2 is, who do you want to sell that to? So is it the first time home buyer? Is it an investor? So you want to figure out cap rates? Is it a secondary home? So you want to figure out how do they carry that, what's that carrying cost going to be? Is it a relocation person who's retiring and is 65 years old? Like how detailed can you get? Because my first year kind of jumping all in onto YouTube, for me, it took about 6 months of making a video every single week until I got my first lead, right? And then it's like, oh, yay, this works. And then the question that you have to ask yourself when you decide what you're going to do is, are you motivated or are you committed? It's easy to go to a conference or come to a breakout session or hear or talk to somebody on the phone and feel super motivated about it. It's like New Year's resolutions. Everyone wants to get diets and lose weight and all these other things like this. And you're so motivated. But all of a sudden week 3 hits and it punches you in the face and you're like, I'm not very motivated. So then the question is, are you committed to it? Because I can guarantee that any business leader that I've coached, not just in real estate, but whatever it is if you're committed to that craft and you see through it long enough, you're going to see results. But a lot of people just give up because they're not motivated. And that's probably 90% of the people who get this idea and then they never see it through. Again, for me, I was editing all my own videos, color grading, script writing, shooting, producing. 6 months, 25 weeks. I was not motivated by week 20. I wasn't motivated after week 4, but I was committed to see it through. And now, obviously it's built its own pipeline. And yes, you have to pivot, you have to adjust. But if I was starting over, I would say, what type of property do I want to sell? Who do I want to sell it to? And now you build everything from there. Everything that you do goes from there. And then the flip side to that is, so my story was I was working with this guy named Dan from Massachusetts because I was like, you know what? I like doing kind of like the Palmer Ranch area, new construction. I grew up in Sarasota, so I know this really well. And this was before COVID. We had multiple trips and I was like, I think I want to work for people just like Dan. I don't like working for first-time home buyers because I feel like I'm enabling them to make the worst decision of their life because they can't afford it and they're going to be in debt forever. And I don't necessarily love people who are just too pretentious that I just can't relate to. And so I like working for people like Dan. And so I said, I'm going to make content for Dan. And so every week when I would make a new piece of content or blog or whatever it was, I said, does this add value to Dan? And if the answer was no, I would scrap it and start again. And so then my first year, like fully into doing it every single week, I brought in 360 leads from video and I converted 1 of 13 to a contract. Okay. All organic, no ad spend. I was committed to the craft. And now to close the story about Dan is it goes into your follow-up. And so Dan, then he didn't buy during COVID. Well, he sends me like I was on like a national podcast and they'd sent some videographers down. And I told this story and I sent that over to Dan and it was like, hey, just want to know, like, you had really inspired me and you had changed my business. And what he sends back to me is he goes, this is so great to hear. Actually, we bought last year in Palmer Ranch and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, great. So the point is, I don't care if it's your brother, your second cousin, your mother, your mother-in-law. If you don't follow up with them, I don't care how many trips they have had with you.
Yeah.
If you are not on top of it or have a good system to follow up, it's going somewhere else.
But also piggyback that, I think if you asked all of us who are ideal client or who we work with regularly, there's probably some variations. We don't all work with the same new construction client at all. So there's a lot of different clients out there. So you find, like you said, find who you enjoy. And I know I love my clients. We've become some of our closest friends are people that I've worked with, and you attract like kind, like you said, figure out what you like, and just, you don't have to be an expert at everything.
No, and I think, you know, if you start to go to the marketing, like they're talking about YouTube and social and all that kind of stuff, just like she said, the key is if you don't have a database and have some type of system on following up and calling, you can take in all those leads you want and look popular and all, but if you're not doing the work, the day-to-day grind, it doesn't help.
So I am the opposite of Matt, because what he's built on YouTube is absolutely outstanding. Because me and my business partner, we talk about it all the time. And I am not a social media person, right? I do not have Facebook, Instagram. I don't watch YouTube. It's not my thing. And so leaning into Matt's place, which is do what you like and good at. If I wanted to go build social media content, I would look so fake on there because I don't give a shit. I'm like, that's not for me. I hate the content on social media. Even when I watch my daughters on it, I'm like, oh my God, I can see the brain cells burning up. So I will have my license 3 years in September. I made a very active decision when I got my license to purchase leads. You can probably tell, I'm from Ireland, right? I have a lot of friends in Tampa and Clearwater, but my daughters chose Sarasota. Thankfully, they chose Sarasota. Right decision, by the way, because we love it. But I didn't have a network here. So everything was, go for your sphere of influence. Well, that's fucking great because my sphere of influence is back in Dublin. So I was like, well, how do I grow? So I was like, I gotta buy leads. And I spent 3-4 weeks like deep diving on where real valuable leads came from. And then I made a decision to partner with Realtor.com at the time. And in my first 12 months, I got a 5-to-1 return on that. You can probably tell I'm very numbers driven. I did $20 million in my first year. And last year was my second year. I did almost $40 million. And this year I am part-time, right? Because I'm working on a real estate tech project and I'm on track to do about 50 to 55 million. I will always buy leads because I like money. I love the industry, but I've made a lot of friends from those leads. Some of them are terrible, right? I've fired plenty of clients. Don't ever be afraid to fire a client. I'm sure everyone on this table has done it. You are here to add value, and if someone doesn't see you adding value or can't appreciate that, that's probably not going to end well. And I would rather earn that on my terms than theirs. So I paid for leads and I started with $500. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting showings. I'm getting out there. And I was in parallel, I was hitting the new construction communities. My new construction business built because I would get an inquiry on a resale home, go show them the home, and then realize this person's a perfect fit for new construction. And so my new construction sort of built from that. I'll buy leads till I'm in the grave and there are realtors who hate it. I absolutely get it. It's either for you or not. But what else am I going to do? I don't do social media. I don't have a sphere of influence. I knew by getting the right lead source, people would come in and talk to me. But that's the easiest part. I know so many people who buy leads, and then touching on everyone on the panel said it. If you don't follow up, it doesn't matter. You can spend 50 grand a month on leads. You are not going to close deals. So I built out a tech stack then to make sure that I never missed a touch point with a client. So we talked about being pending under a long construction contract. If I forget to reach out to my client, my system sends a text in my name automatically. It's just like, just want to check in, see if you need anything, that's it. It doesn't say, how's the house? You know, when's the inspection? It's just like, hey, I'm thinking about you. The level of response I get to those texts is crazy. Like probably 80, 85% response rate, because I'm not asking them about their transaction. I'm just checking in. So as you're starting back into it, pick your source. All of the sources that everyone's mentioned is great, but what's right for Matt is not right for me. I would be terrible on YouTube. One, it's taken everything I can do not to curse in this room right now, because that's my natural language, right? And I used to do a lot of media back in Ireland, and it would drain the energy out of me, because it was like I had all this pent up like bad language when I would come out of the interview. So I think you've got to find what you love, and then consistency is key. I used to do business turnarounds, was my previous career. I've done it all over the world, and I would say to people, you can be consistently bad or consistently good, but as long as you're consistent, you'll gain business. And that might sound crazy, because everyone's like, I want to be the best, I want to be great. How many bad businesses do you know out there that are consistently bad that make billions of dollars? Anyone got a Verizon phone? Ever try and call them? You know, all right, 45 minutes waiting. Well, you know, because it's consistent. Consistency wins, hands down, every time. And consistency will take you from motivation to success. When the chips are down and you're getting the shit kicked out of you, you got to get up off the floor and keep going and keep doing what you set out to do. It doesn't mean you don't pivot and change, but you have to drive consistency into your business. It is a business. It's not a hobby. Even if you're part-time, you will drift out of this business over time if you don't get consistency. And that would be my biggest thing. I think that's been the biggest win, and the reason I've grown the business so quickly is just that consistent follow-up, checking in. Like even clients that I closed in my first 3 months, I reach out to them every 12 weeks still. I don't, my system does, but it comes from me. It's like, just want to check in. How's everything? How's the family? Like, they're very generic, warm messages, because you're building relationships. Because you know what? Whatever about losing Dan, if I'd have closed Dan, I don't want him going to another realtor when he moves in 5 years. So that post-closing is what a lot of people forget as well. Just keep talking to your clients. Sorry.
Yeah.
We had to actually stop then and find the vendor, and they just said, you're not allowed to come to the site. We're so glad they came visit, because, oh my God, we didn't want more to catch the heat. How would you do it?
I think it comes back to the beginning of managing the expectations at the same time. So, you know, I'll tell a client, hey, when we go under contract, I might not know if there's issues with your build, because the project manager is not going to call me. They're going to call you, because you're the one buying the house, not me. And so I'm not going to know if there's a problem until you wrote me in. I can help you solve, problems. So if you tell your clients, I will be at that site every single week and I'll text you photos, you tell them that on the front end, you're managing that expectation. And every one of you can manage your expectations differently with how you run your business with your clients. But then you paper trail everything. And so I tell my clients, hey, you might have a project manager on day 1. That might not be the same project manager on day 60 or when you close. And so you document everything. After every phone call you have with a project manager, you keep the same email thread. You can copy me on it or not copy me on it, but I'm telling you what you need to do as the buyer to help protect yourself. Again, I'm trying to not take the responsibility on me, because I don't want the liability. Realtors are the number 3 most sued profession in America. There's a reason for it. So I'm going to cover my basis by not getting involved as much as maybe other realtors will. And so I'll coach them of how they can protect themselves. So, hey, if you, Bob, the project manager, and they, talk to Bob about something, hey, Bob, per our phone conversation today, thanks so much for all the hard work you're doing. You're going to be doing this. You said this is going to get installed next week. Thanks so much. That way, 3 weeks goes by and nothing's happened. You have a paper trail of it. Or if you were going there and you saw mold and you take a picture of it and you put it in an email thread with the project manager, the sales rep, the buyers, there's a paper trail. So if this starts going down the crazy trail and corporate gets involved, there is a paper trail of this, not a, well, this project manager, well, I didn't see that. And it's not there anymore because I painted it. There's a paper trail of it. So I would say just cover your butt, behind all of this.
They're always going to say that. So they're always going to say that. And I do want to say you do need to be cautious though, because I went on site one time and I got stopped by construction manager and they're like, we will void their warranty.
Or they can kick you out of the contract.
Yes.
Builder can kick the buyer out of the contract.
You gotta, we're saying push, but in the same token, this is a construction site. There is no trespassing signs everywhere. If your client got hurt, would they sue the bill? I mean, we have to work together on all of this. And so, yes, we can go so far, but we have to be careful. We have to, if for some reason, and all buyers do it. We've all done it. I built a house too. I went and looked at it. It happens, but you have to be very careful and make sure that everyone is safe. First and foremost, it's great that they noticed that. It's great. They probably, because maybe it wouldn't have been, but I don't know that there is a remedy for can they not do that. I've had buyers do it. I've done it, but also we need to respect their workspace and make sure that everything is done.
For me, I think it's just always sometimes you do have to set appointments, specific times to be able to go. There's a couple builders that are very, very specific and only let you in during certain times, but you just make sure, you've set up those appointments to the best of that ability.
Couple things you said before, back to when you talked about warranty stuff. Do all the builders attach workmanship standards to their contract in the warranty information? Or is there a workmanship standard for the state of Florida besides building codes? So that if something's out of plumb, let's say, what is the workmanship standard for being out of plumb?
Building code is probably your first one. I mean, actually the inspectors in Sarasota and Manatee County are usually pretty good. I mean, again, there's exceptions, but they're working to local building code and state building code. I actually think I get a lot of buyers who get frustrated and tell me that the build quality is not as good in Florida as it is elsewhere. I think actually our build quality is better than most other states, because build quality can mean many different things to many people. It can be what's the connection on that plumbing, or what have they done with that electrical panel. But ultimately, the big things that matter are the structural integrity of your home. Broken electrical panel can be repaired quite easy. We have some of the toughest building standards in the country. And I say to people, your home, if you're in a new construction home, you're not far off being in a bunker. You look at what happened with those big storms in 2024, the houses that were hit were all older built houses. The newer construction houses stood. Whether they took water on is a different animal, but they stood and they survived. I think each builder has a very different approach to warranty. Each builder has a very different approach to what they'll fix and won't fix. There are specifications. If the crack in the concrete in the garage is less than 1/8 of an inch, they're not going to touch it. But I'll still ask for it. I'll still go in there and go, okay, that's all right for one crack. This is like Picasso decided to paint with cracks on the garage floor, and I'll do it in a fun way and get everybody to laugh rather than being a dick about it, because actually they're more inclined to engage with you at that point. And I think it does come back to, how you build those relationships, because at the end of the day, we're not on the surgery table saving someone's life. Everybody's here trying to do a job, earn a living. And if we have respect and we really look after those people that are involved in the transaction, they're more likely to go out of their way for you. You'll still encounter the odd asshole who doesn't want to help. And that you're going to have to figure that out. But that's where your relationship with the sales manager or whatever comes in, you know? And again, you have to approach it the right way. But from a building standards perspective, I mean, I don't know all the building standards in Florida, but I know what to watch out for in the builders that I work with. And when a new builder comes to town, I will spend a lot of time with the sales agent understanding how they approach warranty, how they approach the build, what they do, what they don't do. You know, am I allowed on site? I think that's a big one. I mean, I'm an ask for forgiveness person. I'm probably not the person to follow, but I will text the construction manager and go, hey, I'm around the corner. I'm just popping in, and if he doesn't say no, I'm in, and that's it. So I'll always cover my ass because I put it in writing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm in there, I'm checking on things, and I'm making sure the client is being looked after, particularly for our estate clients. You know, that's the most nerve-wracking thing. I think we forget a lot in the industry. 90% of the customers you deal with, this is the biggest thing they're ever going to do in their life. I can tell you the construction manager doesn't come from it that way. The title company doesn't come at it that way. Like you're in your client's corner. They're spending $500,000. Probably the next most expensive thing they bought is a 40 grand on a car. So it's stressful. It's it's a big deal. And I think you have to approach it like that and then go build your relationships and help everybody navigate through it. And I say that to sales agents and construction managers all the time. Like, remember, you do this every day. They've only bought 2 houses in their life, right? And the last one was a quarter of this price. This is stressful for them. Let's help them get there. Yeah.
Sure. So I'd like to wrap on the note of one last piece of sage wisdom, advice, what you'd like to say about the agents that are looking to grow into new construction or do more new construction business. What's your best piece of advice for them? Whoever wants to kick it off.
I just stick with be the expert. You've got to get out to those communities. You've got to see them, feel them, learn the lifestyles, and build those rapport with the agents there so that you can use them as leverage.
I would agree with that greatly. And we're all in this together. The builders, the sales reps, the project managers, we're all in this together. It's a very fun way to build your business, in my opinion, because it's emotional for the buyers. It's less emotional for the sellers. And so I like that a little bit. But we're all working together and make sure it is about relationships. Know the communities, know the reps, be willing to learn, be willing to ask questions. And also, as a piece of advice, we're all sitting up here talking about all these numbers, big numbers that we're doing. I've done this a very long time, and I've run offices and things, and I'm going to tell you, everyone out here has a different goal and a different number they want to hit. If you want to sell 3 million or 30 million or 60 million or one house a year, however you want to run your business, run it that way. Don't listen to all of us up here saying all these things. Find what you're passionate about, find what you need to do, what you want to do, and do that. Because I've been in a lot of seminars in 30 years, and sometimes it's overwhelming, but you don't have to sell 100 homes, okay, to make a very, very nice living in real estate. So I think sometimes you come to these events and it's a little overwhelming. And I just want to assure people you don't have to do that. Just figure out what it is that you want to do.
So good.
Yeah, I'd say it's not necessarily about new construction versus resale. It's kind of what I was saying to you before. I think it's building the business that you want. New construction is a part of what we do, especially if you're selling in Sarasota. And so you have to be aware of it. You kind of have to have a knowledge of what is out there, because at the end of the day, 90% of my business is relocation buyers. Relocation buyers are looking for a lifestyle. And so new construction can provide that lifestyle, resale can provide that. So look at the ways that you want to attract that business and come up with a business plan and a business model and stick to it. And if you don't know how to come up with an effective one, ask somebody. When I was my first year into the business, I had no clue where to start. I had no idea. YouTube, like that wasn't even like a thing. And I started just doing open houses, right? My mom told me, go do open houses, son. You're going to meet people, shake hands, kiss babies, and build relationships, and you're going to have real estate conversations. And that's what I did. And then I just started asking realtors that were way above where I could ever be. I started asking them questions. Hey, if you had $500 to start your business, what would you do? And he said, I would go to the top producing agent in my office and spend $500 taking him to dinner and just ask him questions. And that would be enough to get me started with where I needed to go. And so people are willing to share knowledge if you're willing to ask. And now I sit here, when somebody asks me to speak or be on a panel, and I'm like, I don't even know what value I have in a sense, because I was sitting right where you are, just asking questions. And that's all it is. And my wife looked at me about a month ago and she's like, remember when, we first started this and you were like, oh man, I wonder if I could ever do a deal with that agent. Like that would be so cool. And she's like, now you're doing those and you're talking to them on the regular, but yet your life hasn't necessarily changed. You're still the same person. So just because you can go build something, it doesn't necessarily change who you are. And one of my good friends in Orlando, he told me, he said, Matt, when I was, figuring out how I wanted to build this, and when YouTube started kind of blowing up, he said, figure out the lifestyle that you want, and then go build a business to have that. For him, he wants to do hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of sale in his market. It's going to come at a cost. He's going to work 70, 80, 90 hours a week to do that. And you can do that. So I think look at the lifestyle that you want, because real estate's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And I think that it is a key and can provide the lifestyle that you want if you build it the right way.
And I'll finish really quickly. I sort of live by the mantra that consistent relationships generates wealth consistently. That's like a little phrase that always sticks in my head. I think one of my old bosses said it to me a long time ago, because I used to have great days and I'd have days when I wasn't so great. And I think if you invest in the right relationships and you follow through and you're consistent on them, you will generate wealth, but that wealth will become consistent. Wealth has a very different meaning to every single person in this room. I did not set out to do a lot of business in real estate. I would have been happy with 2 or 3 million in my first year. I think, I always talk about consistency to anyone I talk about, but it's a very underrated term. Most of us are not consistent in the things we do every day. But if you can find your passion, as Matt said, find your niche, pick 2 communities, learn everything about them, go after whatever way you're going to publicize that, do it. Just find the things that give you energy, because you're going to hit tough and hard times. And it's that passion and energy that'll take you through it. But just be consistent. And by God, when you get a lead, don't stalk them outside their house. But there's one level below that I'm at, right? That's me in the tree outside. Just stay talking to them. Just keep show them that you value that relationship. And when you show people you value a relationship, they will value the relationship back. And they're not all going to be like that, but I think, consistent relationships generates wealth consistently is my mantra.
So good. I just want to commend you all for taking time out of your busy lives and day to be here, to be curious, and to expand your knowledge. And can we please give a round of applause to our panelists? Thank you. Please stay. We've got wine, other beverages, light bites in the back. Network with one another and ask any questions you didn't get the opportunity to while we were up here. Oh, yes. Come on up, Courtney.
All right.
Any other cards?
Thanks, guys.
Any other contestants? Thank you all so much. This was really great.
in raise book or folks just
You know what? I'm not sure about that, but I can definitely ask
yeah
because it's important.
yeah
So you ready?
if I could get someone
Ready. I don't know if you need.
Yeah.
sorry
No, you're fine. Okay, drum roll. Must be present to win. Don't leave before we draw. I'm gonna draw. I don't have a card in here. No horse in this race. Autumn.